Welcome to Spiritual as Fuck,
Spiritual as fuck.
where spirituality meets the real world. I'm Liz Volpe, social entrepreneur, psychic medium, teacher, and founder of the Intuition Academy. I am passionate about inspiring people to dream big and change the world.
I'm Diane Driscoll, a coach, facilitator, keynote speaker, and self-directed healing practitioner. I am fascinated with all things science, spirituality, and self-leadership, and love the journey of incorporating my spiritual gifts into my life and business.
We share real and raw spiritual stories, give you a safe space to challenge what's normal, and have some serious fun along the way. If the podcast isn't enough, we invite you to our monthly online events and workshops with some of the world's best spiritual teachers.
Plus, join our Spiritual Renegades community and get bonus episodes and lots of exclusive content. Everything you need to be spiritual as fuck.
Welcome back, everyone, and Happy New Year to start with the first episode of the brand new year with Spiritual as Fuck. And today we're pretty excited and, of course, incredibly lucky because we are bringing back one of our guests. If you've listened to the podcast, you'll recognize her voice. And if you're one of the members of the Renegades, yes, you will definitely know who she is. She is our official numerologist, the wonderful Joy Woodward. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you, Liz. That's amazing. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be a good episode. Diana and I are always excited to kind of dive into predictions for the new year because we all feel the same, don't we? Once we've got Christmas out of the year, okay, what the hell has 2025 got to offer for us? Is it better than last year? Do we need to watch out for anything? Yeah. I'm going to hand straight over to you here, Joy. My year was pretty challenging last year, so I'm just hoping that this one's going to be great.
Okay. Well, numerology is actually one of the most amazing tools for predictions, and understanding your personal cycle gives you an even better window into what is to come and what the best place to put your energy and what you can work on is. So when I look at 2025, that's the universal year. So 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5, we get a 9. So we are at the end of a celestial chapter. This is the cosmic wrap up. So
is it good wrap up? Bad wrap up?
that is all up to everybody's individual
okay.
How they'll experience it. But it's so important to have those endings. And this is kind of like cosmic clutter clearing. So you want to get rid of everything that is not serving your highest and best good. And we're also going into the year of the snake, or the Chinese zodiac. And that's, I always say these modalities always complement each other. They rarely contradict. And so when you have the year of the snake, it's about shedding that skin, right? And seeing what's new that's going to be exposed. And so if you relate that back to a 9-year, we got to get rid of some stuff and see what's underneath. And so a lot of illusions and sort of those broken ideas or things we've accepted as part of the collective and never questioned, that's all on the agenda.
Oh, I feel that as well. Do you, Diane?
Absolutely. And even just when you say that, there's such a ring of awakening in what you're saying. It's like all those things that we were asleep to, or those things that we've kind of had illusions about. And it sounds like next year we're going to start waking up that little bit more. And I do think too, like maybe this is me consoling myself, but every time we talk about endings, like you can't have an ending without something else beginning. So it's all like, I always console myself to think, okay, yes, it's a year of clearing out and shedding, but we're making way for the new. We're making way for something even better.
Yes, absolutely. So what I like to do at the beginning of every year and looking back and seeing what you can expect, go back to all the other collective 9 years. So our most recent one was 2016. So if you think about things that happened in 2016, that was a huge turning point for us. And I remember one of my predictions at the very end of 2015 was nothing going forward looks the same in a year. We're either going to have our first female president, or you're going to have Trump as president, who has not that political sort of history attached. And so you just knew something was getting shook up, and it did. And so
Ooh.
now, if you think we're coming off of an 8-year, that's a lot of times where people chase their tail or repeat patterns, and where things can have total reversals from bottom to top. And we're definitely seeing that in politics, not just in the US, but in other countries as well. And so that is something that is happening. But if you go back to some of the other things that have happened in 9 years, 2007 was Brexit. I mean, that was a huge ending.
Oh, wow. Yes.
So that can tell you a little bit about sort of those political endings and things that you can kind of expect. In 1998, which was also a 9-year, that was the year of Clinton's big impeachment. And so I'm sure some of your listeners are a little bit to the younger side. You just go ahead and Google that. You'll find all the information. And in 1989, we had the collapse of the Berlin Wall.
Yes,
That's so
huge. And they're huge clearing out. They're huge structural changes.
Nothing looked the same on the other side of any of these events. And so that is, go back to your personal life, look at your camera roll, see what you were doing, and that will always give you a clue. So we're going 2016, 2007, 1998, 1989, 1980, and then 1971. And you can do the math if you were around before that.
Joy, can I ask a question here? Because this is sometimes where I get confused. So because it is a collective year 9, is that the same? So if I look back, so when I wrote down 2016, I had a big holy shit moment because I had a total mental health breakdown in 2016. So that was a massive clearing for me in my life, but it wasn't a personal 9-year. It was a collective 9-year. Does that make a difference?
Well, for you, that was also a 5-year. And 5 is the personal energy that brings change and transformation. So when you look at those together, and I always say your personal year is always going to be more impactful to your own life than any collective year. Now, if you have a 9 attitude, which is your day and month of birth added together and reduced, if that comes to a 9, you run with the collective. And so you will feel everything a little more intensely.
Oh, okay. I am sure, Joy, between some of our, long conversations that you have mentioned that before. But with numerology, I just find there is so much to learn and so much to absorb that I need to hear things a couple of times. But that's a really, really interesting thing to know.
And so this year, and it only happens in 9 years, everybody will be in the personal year of their attitude number. So whatever your day plus month of birth is, that is also your personal year for 2025.
God, my mind is like racing with questions here because I'm like, okay, following on from Diane's question, we're in a collective 9-year of endings. Bloody hell, last year was this year 9-year personally for me. But now I'm in a 1-year. So what does the kind of the fresh number 1 with the 9 mean?
Well, at the beginning of a 1 personal year or 1 collective year, it's what I call the halo effect. And there's always a little bit of energy left over and some finishing up, some cleanup that has to happen. And so anything you neglected to let go of in your 9 year.
Damn it.
If you're doing the work, though, you might be okay. So whatever's remained, that will get brushed away. And I always say it's easier to do it on your terms than wait for the universe to use things like and other cosmic magic to rip it out of your hands. So your choice, release or get dragged.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Joy. Don't know what to think about that, to be honest.
No, but that's perfect. So how I see that playing out for the collective right now, we are at a point where so all these years that I just mentioned, 2016, 2007, 1998, they all had massive, massive technological advances. And when I speak about those advances, I mean, 2007 was the release of the iPhone. That completely transformed us. And then you had the internet, the actual server and browser development. That happened in 1989. So did the first VR equipment, which I think we're going to see take real new twists and turns this year. So I don't think anyone can possibly conceive what we're headed towards in terms of this sort of blurring of virtual reality and reality that we are now approaching.
Wow.
And so it's going to transform the workforce. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Kim Kardashian's robot. What's it called?
No.
Optimus. Oh my God.
Kim Kardashian has a robot.
Elon Musk. Oh, here we go. Elon Musk gave Kim Kardashian a robot. So you give the biggest influencer in the world.
Oh my God.
Your robot, you do a custom one in gold. She's playing rock, paper, scissors with it. She's apparently letting it drive her kids to school, like all sorts of things. So there's a lot of clickbait videos out there if you want to see her with her robot. But one of my predictions is that we're probably 5, maybe 7 years away from, you won't be leasing cars anymore. You're going to be leasing a robot for your house. And
Joy.
Wait a minute.
I need to go back to that. So your prediction is that we're going to have, like, it's just going to be a household item that we all have it in our home, and
Well, yeah, and you've got things like cyber cabs now that are slowly starting to roll out. So when you have a cyber cab and you can beckon a ride to your house that easily and effortlessly, you're not going to need your own car now with insurance and everything else that goes along with that. But what you will have money for is for your own little personal assistant. And that will be...
I kind of need that, to be honest. I'm all in for these robots.
That will be in the form of an Optimus. And so with that, they've already seen robots really transforming the workforce in terms of factories and things and what they're capable of doing. They don't make mistakes. They don't need insurance. They don't require an hourly salary. So when I talk about transforming the workforce, this is going to be over the next sort of, like I said, 5 to 10 years. But you now have AI getting, every day AI gets smarter, and it's constant. It's not a great numerologist right now, but with that, I'm sure one day it will be. So it's also going to transform white collar jobs, not just factory and blue collar jobs. So people are going to need to rethink their sort of workforce. And so another thing that I heard Elon Musk talking about was not if, but when we go to a basic income for everybody. Ooh. And I actually, this is going way deep, way quick, but I hope it's one. But he's also very involved with the neuro implantations and things for AI. And I think that is how they're going to get everybody on board. If you would like your basic income, you're going to need this neuro implantation.
Yeah.
And so are you going to starve, or are you going to get your implant?
Oh, gee whiz, that's hard to get your head around, that one, isn't it?
It is, but I guess it's similar to vaccinations for, for pandemic.
Yeah, there's a way to get everyone to do everything.
It's a test to see how compliant we will be when these things are rolled out. Yeah.
Right. So with the right motivation, you know, everybody will adapt and or in their own way. So you're going to see a divide. You're going to see people going off
Yes.
grid. You're going to see, you know, people really evolving, sorry, using that extra time they have because they're not at work. Are you going to use it for personal growth and evolution, or are you going to use it for brain rot and start living in a virtual reality where you don't even know the difference between what is real and what is virtual? So
God.
I would say some of the best careers to get involved in right now would be the mental health, the ethics, the reality of AI, addiction,
Yeah.
privacy issues, you know, and then are you going to have monopolization of these virtual realities? Like there are so many things to work out on that level, but I really think that's where we're evolving to. And so change is always scary. And I am 100% not a tech wizard. Like technology makes me cry. And many times. Okay. So it's something though where you have to decide, are you going to watch or are you going to participate? Because there really isn't you know, an option if you are, you know, when we're moving forward this way. It's going to move fast and time has changed. It has shifted. Like,
Yeah.
how are we here? How are we here? It's
Yes.
crazy. Because I remember it was like October yesterday.
Yeah.
Everything is speeding up.
So
Yeah.
fast.
It
Yeah.
is.
And so part of that is, you know, based on what we can accomplish in a day. But you know, it really is speeding up and changing.
Oh God, that's just such an interesting topic. It is though, isn't it? You can feel it. I was just speaking to my son yesterday and he was like, Mum, every time I ask you, it's Friday. He's like, it's always Friday.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know,
And
he's
when a
11 and
child
he's
is noticing that,
it.
yeah, they don't have the pressures of, you know, work and paying bills and all of those things, but they still notice it as well. I think also as a parent to, you know, like I have a teenage daughter, and you're constantly thinking about you know, what type of career, what's next for, you know, for her, and even just like kind of traditional education, because everybody just assumes you're going to head off into university. And for me, it's like, well, I don't necessarily think that that's the right thing to do. It's like there's so much in university that's just old school, and you're learning things that are way outdated, that are no longer required unless you're going to be a surgeon or a, you know, something that really, really needs in-depth training. But the amount of, you know, with technology, also there's the explosion of education and learning in different ways. So, you know, outside of the mainstream education, there just seems as if there will be a parallel growth in that as well. So for me, it's almost like, yes, there's the worry of, okay, no idea what options. You know, if my daughter was to sit down and fill out her forms for what she'd like to be for when she grows up, like compared to when I did it, it's like, you know, by the time she actually gets to leave school, there'll be a whole plethora of other jobs out there, or things that we haven't even conceived yet. So technology brings that along with it as well, and keeping pace with it. There'll be so many roles that are just obsolete, that are no longer required, because AI, automation, robots have all taken that over. And I'm not saying that I necessarily think all of that is a bad thing, but it is still, you know, that sense of, you know, wanting a little bit of security for your family, for your kids, for what tomorrow is going to bring, is just getting looser and looser. And the best thing we can do is teach each other to be able to adapt and change and go with the flow, and just be able to, you know, lean into our humanness, or what makes us human, or even our intuitive, like Liz, you speaking about the intuitive era. It's like those sorts of things are becoming more and more and more important, because we're not as reliant on the nuts and bolts that we used to be.
Yeah. I have some predictions about education, actually.
Oh,
How
yes,
that-
please. Ooh, look at his pen and paper at the ready.
So education is going to shift dramatically. Right now, they're focused on how to keep people from cheating and using AI. And that's going to become a non-issue. But when they teach history, what if you could go into a virtual reality and spend a day as a gladiator? What if you could go into that VR and spend a day in Rome to learn about Rome? right? So that will completely shift how people are learning. The other thing that I see sort of short term is a return to textbooks. Problem with AI is that it is fueled by the internet. That is how it is fed. There's a lot of misinformation online. And so I don't know if they're working on programs for AI to get rid of the misinformation, but who's making those decisions? And this is why, ultimately AI isn't a great numerologist. I mean, it got my life path wrong the first time I asked it. Now I believe it would get it right, but it doesn't have that nuances that numerology has. It's not great at that. So I'm still feeling secure right now. But with
That's good. You.
But if you can learn surgery in a virtual reality, by completing surgeries virtually, I mean, as a patient, I would think that would be a great idea if my surgeon had been able to virtually complete far more surgeries than they'd ever have the opportunity to if they were waiting for a body to show up. Right.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different applications. And in that case, it's extremely beneficial to have, that virtual reality. I'd love to have lunch with William Shakespeare. I would love to, do you know what I mean? Have, visit Pythagoras. That would be awesome.
Yes.
But I see education completely shifting. So that return to textbooks, it will be short-lived, right? But that is where they can control the information. And I always say control always has some illusion attached to it if you actually think you're controlling anything. And so, like I said, it would be short-lived, but the whole way education works is shifting and changing.
Yeah, about bloody time, that one, I think.
Absolutely, because it is so badly needed, and it's almost like the pendulum with AI, but even with with the internet and being able to Google your answers and everything being information at your fingertips on the internet, as opposed to looking up a reference textbook or having to commit everything to memory. We've been through all of this before. This is just another iteration or a more complex iteration of that. But I think above all, it's those old school traditional structures that are associated with school, that is, preparing people for the factory line to be a factory worker, to, those are the things that, that's what needs to be smashed.
Yeah, they're waking up to that though. Why were we taught that this is what we're doing and never question it? So they're, people are starting to question their reality, and that will always bring more evolution.
I'm interested too. I'm not sorry. Yeah, go, Joy.
Would you like to hear my next prediction?
Yes, please.
Hey, I'm predicting the rise of the AI celebrity. And so in a
No. I can't go.
I can see both of your faces. That was awesome. Okay. So the AI celebrity, this is going back to like New Coke 1989 stuff here, or even earlier, 1980, when, I don't know if you remember Max Headroom.
Yes.
He was
Liz is too young.
virtual character, but it was actually an actor that they were digitizing.
Yes.
And so these will be complete AI characters, and people will have an opportunity to interact with them on a completely different level. And so, I mean, it's like OnlyFans AI. And you will be able to get messages and interact with them and have relationships, and they will be accessible on a completely different level and basically omnipresent if you want them to be. Wow. And so the rise of the AI influencer, AI celebrity, that's all going to happen. And then what you're going to see is legal battles over who owns the license, because you don't have to pay these people, right? But you're going to have a lot of legal battles over who owns what. And from a numerical perspective, everything is energy. And so
Yes.
an AI name, an AI birthday, I believe numerically that holds an energy. And
Oh,
that
wow.
will influence sort of the impact of who hits, who doesn't.
Wow. Oh my goodness. That's
That is
crazy.
probably because of my work through mental health circles, just knowing particularly like the impact of, you're talking about AI influencers, but AI pornography or AI relationships. Sorry, I'm using inverted commas for anybody.
Pornography. I predict full-on sex with robots.
Yeah. So this is this
You.
that's where it seems to be going. And to think then, gone are the traditional relationships. So that's another huge, big change because if you are interacting with an AI, a robot, and that is where your relationship is coming from, and you can make it be whatever you want to be, then who wants the hassle of a traditional relationship where you have to nag at somebody to empty the dishwasher?
You've got the robot to do that. You've got your fake husband.
Pick up that.
Yeah, all your fantasies are fulfilled, whether it's emptying the bin or in the bedroom. It's that is actually, that's quite freaky, quite scary just for the future of the human race to a degree.
It's shifting. I mean, things are going to change.
Yeah.
So if you take a woman who's been through a whole lot of bad relationships and offer her a robot that's going to pick up their clothes off the floor, I mean, that could be interesting for her. And he knows exactly which buttons to push, or they, or she, he,
metaphorically.
And it's a whole new world.
It definitely opens the imagination, that's for sure. Joy, I have a question here. When we're talking about structures, what comes to my mind is the whole finance structure, the banks. My husband for many years has just been this huge advocate for crypto. It's all he bloody talks about. Is he going to make lots of money with crypto this year? What do we need to know?
He already has. I have quite a few clients in San Francisco and in Silicon Valley, and the other day last month when crypto went over 100K, there were a whole lot of new millionaires and even millionaires because they invested when it was $50. And so it's pretty wild. Crypto has always felt a little like sand to me. Like you can't really grasp it or hang on to it. But in reality, the entire stock market feels a little bit like sand to me.
Yeah, true.
So I'm so cautious and leery about commenting on investments or stocks. But I do feel that 2007 was the year of the mortgage crisis in the US. And so you're definitely going to have some tearing down and building back of financial structures for sure.
But you can kind of sense that coming as well, can't you, with the economy? People are either on one side of the fence or the other in terms of using cash. Some people want a full digital society, all of that type of conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it's very easy for people to be hypocritical about, do you know what I mean? I had someone I posted my book on Amazon, and because it was on sale, and someone said, I would never buy anything from Amazon or anyone who supports it. And I'm thinking, okay, good for you. And then I had another person who came on and said, Jeff Bezos is so good at what he does. If I can order something at 8 a.m. and have it at my door by 7, I don't really care. And it was probably cheaper. And so there's arguments on both sides. And so I think what we're missing, and 9 has a humanitarian energy to it. What my wish for the collective would be that we could end divisiveness and start respecting one another. So you go ahead and believe what you want to believe. You act the way you feel you should. And I'm going to be over here doing what I believe and the actions I want to take. But I don't need to rip you down or convince you of my stand.
Yeah.
Hallelujah, Joy.
Live and let live. Absolutely.
Yeah. So in a 9-year, that's possible that we start to heal some of that divisiveness. But what I really see is under previous 9 years, really in 2016 especially, there's always a huge draw towards spirituality. Like the world just isn't making sense to people anymore, and they start looking for mystical answers. So astrology, numerology, human design, anything that can provide some type of structure that could make sense. And really, it's all about soul evolution. That's what it's about. When people say, what is the point? Not paying bills and going to work and eating and sleeping. That isn't the point. And if you get stuck there, you will not have a fulfilled, happy, or very evolved lifetime. So when you're at the human school, you want to take advantage and experience the most soul evolution you can. And astrology, human design, numerology, they all can help you make sense of that.
So for any of our listeners who are thinking about kicking off your spiritual business, it sounds like paving the way, or at least clearing the way next year to be able to launch it probably the year after. Is that? Because if the 9-year is shedding.
So in a 9-year, you're going to have a lot of people who leave the workforce, whether they're pushed out from AI or if they just want to exit because they wake up. And what I'm finding is a lot of people want to hang that spiritual shingle, but they're kind of spiritual bypassing. They're not doing the work. They're not looking at their own lives and making, getting clean so they can offer proper guidance to other people. And so we're going to see a lot of that. And ultimately, that is not good for the spiritual industry. If TikTok came to an end in 2025, I'm actually okay with it.
There's a different brand of spirituality on there.
There's so much misinformation. Read a book. Like my personal numerology library, I have well over 70 books. Most of them are out of print, but that's where the best, purest information comes from. That's where the real sacred science is found. And
that goes to your point, Joy, about going back to textbooks as well. It's like it's almost to the point where anything we read online now, we're skeptical about. It's like, oh, is this, is that an altered image? Is that written by AI? What is it? But if I go back to an old out of print book, then that was at least true at that point in time, or one version of the truth at that point in time. Whereas now everything. Yeah, exactly.
Pre-internet is where you find the good stuff, because that's where people had to do their research, go to a library. So, so big changes. But like I said, they make room for the new and will adapt, and everyone's going to be okay. But it's definitely going to shift, and the world won't look the same 9 years from now if we have the same conversation. We'll probably be holograms all sitting in the same room.
Oh, God. We're in our virtual reality headset sat next to each other on the couch from different sides of the world. I can just see it now.
I'll give you both a hug.
Yes.
Oh, wow. That is so funny. It's like, yes, there's the perks and benefits that come with this as well. It's not all to be feared. Is there anything else, Joy, that has come up for you in terms of predictions? Anything else that stands out for you, even just your own maybe overlay of your own interpretation, not just the numbers, but maybe some of your, intuitive side as well?
Yeah, I mean, like space travel and all that's going to continue. Intuitively, I see this sort of bigger divide happening. And although it doesn't sound like the kindest thing I've ever said, how I've kind of reconciled it in my own brain is saying there are the people that have decided they want to be spiritually enlightened and awake, and there's the muggles. And so we are seeing the great divide of those choosing a muggle life versus a spiritual one. And there's a lot of spiritual people that have their foot in both sides of it. And that is often very disheartening when you see a spiritual person being unkind or hypocritical. And so I think that they will slowly start to separate, is what I see happening. And really, it's about respecting the muggle journey. That is their choice. Yeah. That is what their soul wants to learn. If you are here for a different journey, perhaps you are a very fortunate unicorn that has been able to step onto the path of enlightenment. So, but I do see that sort of greater divide happening. And so while I'm saying, I'm hopeful about the divisiveness being a little bit healed, it's really about respect. Yeah. So you just want to respect the other person's journey. And in a 9-year, you really need to release and forgive. And if people cannot forgive one another and really truly put emotion behind that and actions behind that, they're going to end up victims of disease, of, not a smooth journey. I always say you can participate when you get the flick or the slap, or you can wait for the spiritual 2x4. One of them is going to be more painful, but you will get rerouted.
Gosh, that's good advice, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder on that, just when you talk about it being a humanitarian year and this, the great divide that is occurring, just particularly with so much war and so much, I guess, turning a blind eye or not, not being humanitarian in nature, like that thread that is going through the globe right now. Yes, there are people who are in outrage and uproar about what's going on in the world, but there are still so many as well that it is that choosing to be the muggle, to put my head in the sand and not necessarily, try to make things any way better or only worry about my own little corner. Do you see any, or is there anything coming up numerologically about, whether it's war, whether it is, ending of war cycles or, revolution, those sorts of things?
Yeah, the first 3 months of 2025, just really quite volatile, I think. So November and December's energy always repeats in January and February. So it's a little bit of a repeat. And that includes Mars retrograde until the 23rd. And you can see people right now picking fights and just taking things personally and blowing them up. And little tiny things. And Mars retrograde is always going to kind of expose your blind spots, right? Show you those shadows and those parts of your personality you didn't want to deal with. And so we've got until February 23rd to deal with some of that stuff and integrate the lessons. But March is a really volatile month. We have Venus going retrograde, and then we've got the eclipses. And so I really don't think anything kind of settles out until April.
Ooh. Okay, brace yourselves, boys and girls.
I'm going on holiday in a couple of days.
I'm going to
go ahead, Joy.
In March, and I just was like, I don't think I'm leaving the house.
Oh, God.
Chaos and drama. I can be a little bit accident prone. I'm like, we've got Venus retrograde, Mercury's going retrograde again in March. We've got a lunar eclipse, a solar eclipse, spring equinox, daylight savings time. Like, I'm good.
And I turned 50.
Yes. So
on top of everything else. Oh my gosh. Okay. So then what advice? So if we're going into this 9 year, And, you know, obviously there's so much that goes on around us that we have no control over, and we, you know, not wanting to get sucked into all of this energy. What advice would you give to people like that can help them through this time?
To let go when you're first urged to, when you first feel the little push, let go of that. This relationship isn't for you. That feels a little toxic. This job will be taken from you if you don't give it up. That's when you
Ooh.
take the action. If you hang on, it gets painful, really painful. And so the more you dig in, the just now you're getting dragged. It's not
Yeah.
good. So that would be my biggest thing. And really just take a look at your consumerism. Like, it's out of control, and that's all clutter. And all that clutter you're looking at that used to be cash. Like, what are you doing? So, you know, everyone likes nice things, but this fast fashion and all the plastic and cardboard and everything else, like, we really need to look at what's happening as a collective. Like, we're shipping our garbage overseas and polluting them because they aren't as wealthy as us. Like,
Yeah.
that's not cool. That's not cool at all. So people finding, you know, that more humanitarian nature, even if it just starts with every day, make a point of smiling at a stranger. It can be that
Yeah.
simple. But kindness
Yeah.
is magic and it's contagious.
Yeah, absolutely, Joy. I have one last question here because we've spoken about there are going to be challenges this year, obviously, and you know that the word surrender just pops into me so much there, and you know the whole letting go. Perhaps that should be everybody's word for the year: just surrender, let go. Um, is there a month that really rings out to you on being very positive with just generally, like if anyone was to move house, it's a good time to move house, or energetically, is there a month or two this year that really amazing things can happen, we can move forward? Or does it just base on when we're letting go?
No, absolutely. So letting go is crucial for creating space for new things to come in. You cannot receive new blessings if you're hanging on to the old. It's not possible. So just think of every release as, what am I creating now? And I make a point when I have a client call me and they've said, like, oh my gosh, I'm getting fired, or I broke up. And I said, okay, the universe is protecting you. You don't need to know why. The how is none of your business, but you are being moved. This is exciting. Like,
Yeah.
let's pop some champagne. Like, we're going to celebrate this. It's a win, right? And it's part of your evolution. So we've been conditioned as a collective that being fired is bad. Being fired is the best thing that ever happened to me. So,
Yes.
you know, it's really about how you frame it. And the idea that we don't really question things that have been put out into the collective, that's, you know, you're doing yourself a disservice. You don't even know why you believe something because you were told, you know. And so when, you know, and that part of it is like, oh, numerology is garbage, it's pseudoscience. Who says? Who told you that? I think it's the people that are scared of its power. I think that's where it started.
Yes.
So, you know, question everything. I don't know if I answered your question. I went off. Sorry.
Joy, I think you're the perfect guest for this first episode.
Absolutely.
I have taken notes. I am
Same
going to
here.
scribbling.
Yeah, so
And I wrote down let go early.
Okay, yes. So there are rewards always in a 9-year. Rewards always come in. And so they are based specifically on your efforts over the last 8 years. And so there will be good things coming in that we experience as a collective. The astrology, the numbers, everything really calms down after, like I said, April, May. May is going to bring some kind of big shift. That'll be a universal 5 month. And so something will shift. And like I said, change is always for the better ultimately. So something big there. And really huge technical advances. will happen sometime around there. From sort of, I want to say October to December is where everybody's going to feel like both mentally, physically exhausted and elated, excited. Like it's going to be all the emotions, all of them. Joy, frustration, anger, like sadness. But ultimately, you know, it's moving forward and making space. How you experience 9 energy is really very dependent upon how willing you are to forgive and release.
You heard it here first, everyone.
Oh, wow. Joy, this is so much information, so much to take on board. And I think what you've offered us is, you know, things that we can sense, we can feel, we can see the beginnings of some of this happening. But, you know, you're bringing it to that next level because it's looking at it in that 9-year cycle as well. Just knowing that, okay, we've got this foreknowledge now for anyone who's listening, you know, we're forearmed that we can do something about it, that we can lean into the year, just knowing that to surrender, to let go, to go with it, not resist the changes that are occurring. And also, I guess, just reminding people too that you can get your own personal numerology chart done, and, you know, to go visit Joy's website. There's so much DIY numerology there. Go geek out on it all. And just, it's a really great thing that even if you're a skeptic, just go, give it a red hot go, see what you can do with it. Because I know definitely Liz and I, total converts, most of the people who are in our spiritual renegades as well, it's like they're just all chomping at the bit for Joy's updates as well. So it's absolutely fascinating. I can feel so much of what you're saying already kind of bubbling under the surface. And I'm just so grateful to you that we now have some, I guess, that foreknowledge, but also some of that wisdom and guidance from you as well onto how to navigate 2025.
Yeah. So I would still say the most important piece is people knowing their personal collective energy. So there's a formulas page on my website if you want to know if a reading's out of reach, get your personal calendar, because if you have that information, it will save you so much heartache, so much burnout. If you can get on that cycle of your own energy that's in tune with Mother Nature, that is where the magic happens.
And we will definitely share all of the links as well. I have to say the calendars of Joy's are amazing. I literally chose the day I wanted to sell my business last year based on that calendar. So, Joy, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for all of the guidance. We'll probably be knocking on your door and calling you a lot this year, it sounds like. So thank you so much again. And everyone, thanks for being here. Happy New Year, and definitely take as much of Joy's guidance and wisdom away today and allow it to sink in, and remember just to let go.
That's it for another episode. Thank you for listening.
If you're looking for a place to feel at home and want to level up your spiritual game, head to our website, spiritualaf.co, to check out our upcoming online events and for information on how to join our Spiritual Renegades community.
Plus, leave us a 5-star review with an awesome comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and we're going to send you a free ticket to one of our supercharged session events.
Until next time, stay spiritual as fuck.